I'm already uncomfortable, and you know it. You sent me this topic, and I went, I don't know if I can get through it.
Well, I sent you this topic because it's something that even though it happens in Florida, it impacts the rest of the United States and potentially the world as far as invasive species and what we're doing about it. So
yeah, that's all very highfalutin, and yes, we'll talk about that and the impact it has on the world. But it boils down to snakes, and I'm not a snake guy. I don't like it.
I don't either.
Well, then why are we doing it?
Because this is because it's fascinating.
Really? No, really? Really? No, really? Really?
It is. So what you sent me, and there's actually, you can go online and see this, ladies and gentlemen. When we invite Amy to start chatting with us, she'll tell us exactly where you can find it. But we are going to introduce you today to Amy Seawy. Why, you ask? Well, they have a python problem, a Burmese python problem in the Florida Everglades. People tend to get them as pets, and then they get a little unwieldy, and they release them, and they become predatory animals, and they upset the balance of the ecology of the Everglades. So people go out and they capture these things. That's the thing to do, is capture it. So I don't know, you might not know, pythons can get to be big. So imagine something 17 feet long, weighing about 110 pounds. What do you think is the bare requirement to send somebody out to capture that thing? You got to figure Crocodile Dundee, the crocodile hunter, maybe a 400-pound guy with a gun and a scope. No. A little woman, 5'4", 120 pounds, went out and captured a 17-foot, 3-inch python herself. No weapons. She took basically a baggie and a lot of chutzpah. Amy Seawy was a real estate person in Indianapolis and went to Florida and got involved with this python hunting thing and got hooked. She's going to tell you her story.
Can you see that moment when she said, I'm not showing another person a house.
Right. I've had it. I'm
like
done.
In the middle of a couple.
Right.
Like she's went, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go.
You know what? I'm aggravated.
I'm going
this
to the
is
Everglades.
tough work.
I'm going to the Everglades where the insects are the size of my head. Anytime I've peed in the Everglades, I've seen two sets of eyes looking up at me.
Yeah.
Why would
exactly.
you go there?
That's why, yeah.
So we should
find out. So she
out.
has captured and killed more than 400 pythons. She hosts guided tours where ticket-buying guests go out there with her. She makes all kinds of beautiful python leather products like watch bands and whatnot. And as I say, she has, I don't think there's a woman with a bigger record than this, a 17-foot, 3-inch python, 110 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, a woman I'm already afraid of. And, and welcome, Amy Seawy. Hi, Amy.
Well, hello. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure. Pleasure.
It's amazing.
You're going to protect me from everything evil. That's what I know.
Amazing looking at you because, I mean, if I don't know if the listener have been to the Everglades. There's so many things other than the python, which can cause you to wreak havoc.
The python is a relief.
So just tell your story for a minute and get us up to speed. What did happen with the real estate job where you went, no mas, I'm going to go catch pythons?
Actually, nothing happened. I wasn't even looking for a new career. I loved real estate. I was good at it, and that was my track. But the thing is, I love snakes. I've got this passion for snakes, and I always have since I was a little girl. My dad put me in the creek and taught me how to catch all kinds of critters. And I just had this crazy fascination with snakes, and it just never ended.
And what is it?
So-
What is it? Because he's creeped out by them. I am so creeped
Yeah,
out.
I mean, I don't want to
hiking.
get Freudian, but I've heard you say, I don't know what it is. I've just always loved snakes. Delve a little bit. Try and look in a mirror and figure out what the hell your problem is. What's with you and the snakes? What is it? Seriously.
If I could answer, I was like, why wasn't it puppies or kittens or dolphins
Yes.
or something normal? Or why didn't I play with Barbies? Why am I playing with snakes? This is so stupid. But that's what it is. And it's actually, my dad had this tremendous, love for nature and taught me all kinds of things about it. And then the snakes, I think it's because we didn't see them as often as everything else. And it was, they were, you didn't want them to bite you, obviously. And it was almost kind of like a challenge. It was a huge challenge. And so whenever we would catch one, it would be, it would be amazing. And so from there, this crazy passion.
But let me ask you
started.
too, because I
Yeah,
didn't.
what turtles didn't cut it for you? Turtles?
Yeah,
or,
no, frogs, crawdads.
Yeah.
Kind of boring to me.
Really?
When you have a snake, I see these videos, especially when I was looking to do research this, and they're lunatics who have these terrariums with the snakes in it, and the guy's walking in and think, "Oh, he almost bit me," and he's laughing. I'm going, "What world? What satisfaction is there? A relationship that you get with a snake? Can you understand the snake? Can you understand
Do you
the behavior?"
speak Parseltongue? Is what he's
No, with a dog, you hope you get a relationship and you can expect
Sure,
your
they're
expectations
cuddly.
or whatever.
Yeah.
With a cat, even though they're sneaky, and I wouldn't have one again, but and they suck the life out of you. You can get what they're about. Even when you see people with big cats, they can anticipate maybe. With a snake, what enjoyment do you get about having a snake in your room when you go to sleep at night? Do you go to kiss the snake at night? Is there a relationship?
or
no?
that's presuming. But do you find an affectionate relationship between snakes, or a bonding relationship between yourself and snakes?
No, there's no bonding with a snake. They actually don't have the part of their brain that's, the emotional piece of it. So they know me. The snakes that I've owned in the past, because I used to be a breeder, they know me because I feed them, basically. But when I go out there in the swamp, I mean, obviously, they're all out to try to, they don't, let me back up. People are not on the menu. Okay. So these pythons are not actually coming after us to eat us. So it actually makes my job a little bit harder because they're very, very hard to find. If they were trying to eat me, at least I'd know where they are. So then I could
what a
grab them
negative.
a lot easier.
I could be bait.
So you leave real estate. So tell us how you got out of real estate anyway, even though you loved it, and got to the Everglades.
Sure. Well, I learned about the python problem down here. I had no idea it was a thing. And when I found out about it, I thought, whoa, what is this? I really need to go down and see what this is all about. You can catch pythons in Florida. That's kind of cool. And so I went on vacation. I went on a hunt. I caught a python and I was hooked. I was like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And my fiance was actually with me, and he's on top of this truck that we're, python hunting on. And he sees me and I've got this python, and he sees the look on my face, and he said, "I knew we were moving to Florida."
It was lovely.
Right
It was that amazing.
Wow.
It was that big a rush, an adrenaline rush for you to do it.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was that, this is something that I've done my whole life. I mean, snakes have always been a part of my world in one capacity or another, but it was, mostly a hobby. And so now I can take this passion and I can use it and make a difference in the world. I can actually help Florida with this colossal problem because I'm not afraid of them. I know a lot about them, and I constantly want to learn. So I'm an asset to the team in Florida.
That first trip when you went down on the vacation to do this, had you previously ever caught anything as large as some of these pythons, or were they just, a different variety, different size of snake in your background?
No, I had never caught a wild snake that was that big before because we don't have them in the United States.
Right.
I've worked with them, like I've worked with pythons that were captive bred. So that's a little bit different.
Sure.
But I haven't, the biggest snake I caught, if you find a 6-foot rat snake in the Midwest, that's a pretty big
Yeah, that's
snake
a big
and a pretty
snake.
cool snake.
So when you went on that first hunt, you were not the lead hunter. You were part of somebody's team, I take it? And
Correct.
did they teach you this specific technique of how you capture these gigantic pythons?
Nope. Actually, so I went out with Donna Khalil. She's a hunter for the state also. And when she takes volunteers out, you don't know how much experience they have. And these snakes are pretty big. This was a 9-foot python. And, with the people that I take out, I know they're all gung ho about catching the python, and then they look at it and I'm like, okay, there's a python. They're like, oh yeah, you go ahead. You get this
right,
one.
right.
We'll get the next
That's pretty
one.
daunting.
So she wasn't sure, if I was, going to chicken out or whatever. So she actually grabbed it, but I grabbed the tail, and then she handed it off to me. And it was, I couldn't believe, like, this is what we just found in the middle of the Everglades. This is the coolest thing ever.
Okay, I've seen the video, but for people that haven't, can you describe briefly how do you capture
catch
a
a
17-foot python? What do you do?
Well, typically with a normal snake, but that's not quite that big, you grab it behind the head, right? You get all the way up behind the jaws. because if you get down even just a little bit, they'll turn around and they'll nail you. So you have to catch them behind the head. So with the 17-footer though, I was by myself and I cannot outmuscle a 17-footer. Most people can't. And so I knew early on that I was probably going to come across a big snake and I needed to be prepared for how I was going to do this. And so in the vet and pet store business, we would put a dark cloth over the animal's eyes or their face to calm them down. So I thought, maybe this would work for a python. So I practiced with like a couple 13 and 14 footers, and I would put this bag, this 6-foot black drawstring bag, or 6x6 inch drawstring bag over these pythons' heads, and they just stopped. It just stopped them cold. So so the night that I caught that 17-footer, it was so funny because I was by myself. It's midnight. And I'm driving my truck slowly down the road, and I see this thing periscoping, and that's when they're up about 2 or 3 feet in the air.
That's I wanted to ask about. Nobody believes that. I read that part, the periscoping. So that's like a cobra. It's actually sitting up, looking at you.
Yes, it is, and I've got some pictures. On my man, I should find it, but anyways, yes. So, but it's the telltale sign is that white against all of the green and brown, right? So they stand out. And so I see that and I pull the truck over and I grab my GoPro and I grab my little bag and I get out, and I don't know how big the snake is. I mean, I just know that it's a python. And so by the time takes like 30 seconds to get to this snake. Well, in the meantime, it had gone down. It took me a good minute to find this thing. It is 17 feet long. I know where it is, and I still couldn't find it. Wow. That's why it's so hard to get these things, right? So when I finally see some pattern through the grass, and I follow it up, and I see the biggest head of a snake I've ever seen. And I'm standing there, and I'm looking at this bag, and I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? But I just, you can't hesitate. So I just jumped on it, and I nailed it down. Now, keep in mind, I can't see the rest of the snake. I have no idea how big this snake is. I just know that it's pretty big. And it wasn't a wrestling match. It was more a battle of strength because it was trying to shimmy back into the swamp. So I'm, actually squatting it up with my, legs, trying to keep it from going back in the swamp. And then I ended up getting that bag over its head. And as soon as I did, it just stopped. I mean, and you can see the video. It was kind of a struggle, but the snake stopped. So I was just sitting there on top of a snake at midnight in a ditch on the side of the highway. And I'm like, now I have to pull this thing out of here.
Yeah. And that's when another truck of people you knew, who I guess were fellow hunters.
Yeah, some other hunters drove by. So I yelled out and they backed up and they said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm sitting on a python." They're like, "Why?" I'm like, "You'll see." And they came down and oh my gosh. And they both said, "This is the biggest python we've ever seen." So it was pretty cool.
And they got razor sharp teeth,
You can
right?
miss. You can. Oh, they have a mouthful of razor sharp teeth. I've been bitten. I don't even know how many times. So many times.
Do you have a visible bite scar anywhere that you can show us?
No.
Okay.
It would be so cool if I did, but they don't scar for some reason.
Well, give
I know
it
that
time.
sounds really weird.
Yeah, you want to see how they can scar? Take me on a hunt. You'll see how badly. Oh, that's going to leave a mark. Has never been truer.
So the other thing I got to wonder about the Everglades, I'm not going. Forget the snake. I'm not traipsing at night into the Everglades because who knows what's in there. And these things, by the way, I should say, they're so
you won't
invasive.
even go in your backyard at night. You're up in the hills with coyotes.
There's things out there.
And raccoons.
Yeah, I don't.
And rats. You've got rats.
It's their
I know
habitat.
you've got rats.
It's their habitat.
Yeah,
God bless
I
them.
wouldn't. If you said to me, "Hey, you want to take a night swim?" I would have said, "Are you crazy?"
Thanksgiving night, we're sitting there having dinner, and we hear this ungodly screaming, and we run outside, and the neighbors outside. It was 2 coyotes, and I feel badly for them because we've encroached on theirs.
Sure.
But they were arguing over some piece of meat, which is, I'm guessing, a neighbor's animal. And they were fighting to the death, and they were huge animals. And again, we've encroached on, you talk about invasive species.
So, Mr. Conservationist, it was Thanksgiving. Did you take them some turkey? Give them a little turkey,
I don't
break
think
up
I
the
had
fight?
to.
Here, boys,
they did
enough
run.
to go around.
They did run when we saw them.
Thanksgiving, a day to be grateful
So
for.
Jason just said, what's in my backyard? In the Everglades, you're jumping in there. There's stuff in there. There's gators. There's all kinds of stuff. How do you know what you're stepping into if it's night and you can't see?
Well, you don't. When I first moved there, I thought I was going to have like a 50 cal and, for the bears and the gators and the pythons and the panthers and, all the venomous snakes that are there and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, they don't want anything to do with you. I mean, they really, really don't.
Gators too. Gators would not attack you if you stepped within a foot of a gator. They're not going to go, ooh, here's something. They wouldn't do it.
Usually they don't let you get that close to them. Now, the only thing that I would be worried about is a bull alligator during mating season that's being territorial. Now, I have a video on my Instagram that I did have to swim in the Miami Canal one time because, well, this is great. So my I had this little John boat that we're island hopping with, right? And my friend and I were going, island to island looking for these pythons. And we get on one island. I look over, my boat's floating down the canal. She tied it to a dead branch. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me right now. So I think we're on islands. It's not like I can run to the end of the land. So I took off my shoes and my backpack, jumped in the water, swam after it. Very hopeful that a gator was not going to eat me. I did not get eaten, so that was good. But that was a very nerve-wracking swim.
I would think, and there's a lot of videos, by the way, love Florida. Love on golf courses when a giant python is fighting an alligator on like the 8th tee. And these guys are standing there.
And by the way, pissed that we're trying to play through. Guys. Can you hold it? We're trying to play through.
So the amazing thing about these animals, these pythons, and why they've eradicated the mammal population there is they eat they're eating the panthers, they're eating the gators, they're eating all of the mammals. And the sad thing was when they got through all of them, the scientists I heard thought, all right, now they're going to starve. At least they'll start starving to death so they won't be overpopulated. They just started munching on smaller mammals, which usually doesn't happen. So they don't have right now any other predator. And they're saying there's no chance at eradicating them all because there could be 150,000, there could be 300,000. They're not sure how many there are, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. I am going to back up a little bit as far as what they eat because, when they come out of the egg, they're 2 feet long, right? So they have to grow to 20 feet. So they eat the different, sized animals appropriate for the size of the snake along the way. So, the statistic is that 98% of the mammals are gone in parts of the Everglades because of the pythons. Now, not all of them. The panthers aren't, they are. The pythons do eat the panthers, but they're not, endangered because of the pythons necessarily. There's a lot of other things happening for that, but yeah. So there are no predators. We are it. I mean, we've got invasive hogs, and hogs will eat pythons. Pythons will eat hogs, but nobody eats enough of each other to make a difference. Same with alligators. Neither one are very high on each other's, priority list of food.
And they're going north now too. They're up in like West Palm. I hear they're gambling in Boca. They're going to delis in Boca. I mean, they're everywhere, right? They're really getting to spread out. And how do they move? So how fast does an 18-foot snake move?
Generally, very slowly. But when they want to go, they go. That's why you can't hesitate.
Okay, I'm just a carte blanche statement. You have more chutzpah than I do. I honestly, I don't think I could do what you do. I really do. Well, let me ask you two questions. I was going to ask you one thing, but let me ask, why do you think many people have such a repulsion to snakes? It seems to be a huge phobia for many, many people. Do you have any thoughts on it?
My mom is deathly afraid of snakes.
Yeah.
And so growing up, I couldn't have any snakes. She didn't even want to talk about it. And to this day, she'll listen to my videos, but she won't watch my videos. Wow. So I have a tremendous respect for people that don't like snakes. And her particular reason was because when she was little, she watched an Alfred Hitchcock film that had a coral snake curled up on some woman, and then the woman wakes up and screams and it bites her and she dies. So she saw that when she was like 5 or something. So so ever since then, she's been afraid of snakes. So I think they're also portrayed, you always see these giant teeth, they're going into these fangs of the vipers and the rattlesnakes. And I think that, people don't want to get bitten by that.
Yeah, but it's weird. People get bitten by dogs too, but generally that's not as big a phobia. To me, there's something about they feel very alien, as many reptiles
Bingo.
and amphibians do.
Bingo.
They're
That's it.
not. They're not cuddly. They don't have the warm
They don't
eyes.
look
They're not
anything-
furry.
they
You don't
look
want to pet them.
Right, exactly.
They
You
just,
don't see snakes playing a piano.
You don't
on
even
YouTube.
understand how are they moving. I don't,
Exactly.
You know, how are they doing?
They're so alien to us that,
Yeah.
that it's a scary...
It's off-putting. Yeah.
yeah.
So here's the question I was going to ask you. Are you just generally a little less fearful than most people, or is there stuff that you go, yeah, I know it's irrational, but this scares me?
I will say this. I don't like spiders. I could do without spiders for sure. People think that just because I like snakes that I have to like spiders, and that's definitely not the case. There are things that I'm afraid of. I don't know. I can't really think of a lot right now. But I'm sure that, as far as like maybe my success or my achievements or things like that, that's maybe where my fear lies. But jumping in that swamp,
Not a thing. Let me ask you
it's a challenge.
before
It's
we
fun.
wrap up, as far as eradicating this invasive species, are you friendly? I know there's Dusty the Wild Man Crumb, and there's the swamp apes. There's a bunch of people doing what you do. And there's a certain amount that are sanctioned by the state to go out to try and eradicate. And then there's the big roundup. Is it the 10-day roundup? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Where you come down there and you get paid, how much?
Oh, it's big money. Big money, Pete. I heard it's like $50 for the snake in general, and then for the first 4 feet, there's nothing, and then after 4 feet, it's like $10 a foot. You can eat at Arby's at the end of a big
but listen to
snake
me.
capture.
You poo-poo stuff that we don't understand.
I'm just saying, for what they're doing, it's not a lot of
I know,
money.
but you're in the Everglades. You just finished bowling. You're on your way home. You see a snake across the road. You pick it up. You drop it in a drop box.
No, you
make
need
some
to
cash.
be licensed. You need a license to do this, don't you?
No, the public can hunt the snakes. However, they cannot transport them live. So they have to be killed on site.
Oh, and I heard about Peter. Let me tell you about the killing thing. I read something about the killing. It's a two-step method to do it. To do it nicely.
Correct.
So the first thing, the method.
First step is screaming.
Step
I got a python. I got a python.
First step is fleeing, and then step 1A is your method should result in the animal losing consciousness immediately. Step 2 is you destroy the animal's brain by pithing, which prevents it from regaining consciousness. So the consciousness part, the thing I saw is it's did you see No Country for Old Men?
No
It's
Country for Old
that.
Men.
It's this little thing you go boom, and it like sends a pellet, bang him right in the head in the sweet spot, and they're unconscious. Now, that's where I would walk away going, well, it's not chasing me now. And then I think the next part is I saw like, and this is going to be gross, like a screwdriver goes in and you kind of like you stir a pot.
Is that accurate?
You're like stirring the pot and it breaks up the brain.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then if you're Amy, you spend the next 17 hours skinning an 18-foot python, and you dry it, and she makes very beautiful things out of it.
Do you know out of one 18-foot python, you can get one driving glove?
No, I think I saw belts. Yes, I saw watch bands or bracelets of some kind.
Yeah, I've got watch bands, Apple Watch
wow!
bands.
Look at that!
Wow.
Oh, that is actually gorgeous.
Thank you.
Wow!
Thank you. Yeah. So I skin them on the lanai of my snowbird condo. Never did I think that I'd be doing that.
From selling real estate. Now, there's your significant other, who I'm guessing still with you. I don't want to probe, but is he as into this stuff as you are? Because I could see me coming out in my bathrobe and going, she's got another 18 foot, another thing hanging from the thing in the condo. Yes, no.
No, he wasn't. So I just have to tell you this though. So he's a hunter and a fisherman, very outdoorsy.
Yeah.
Really appreciated my passion for snakes and everything. He came down to Florida with me, and he would go hunting with me. He would drive the truck and I would be able to spot, right?
Yep.
But he was always like, yeah, you catch the pythons. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then one day we come across a 14.5-foot python. I'm like, babe, I think I'm going to need your help for this. And so you have to remember, this is kind of in the beginning. He's never really caught a big snake before, and I don't have all of my, techniques down. And the one thing that I'm going to preface this with is that when a python bites you or bites its prey, it bites and then it wraps its coil. It's the first third of its body, right? So we call that throwing the elbow. So I jump on this thing, and so it just starts coiling around me, and I'm fighting it, and Dave's like, what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, get the elbow. He's like, what? I said, get the elbow. He's like, it's a effing snake. Where's the elbow? So I was like, oh,
Oh
God.
my
But
gosh.
we actually, it was a fight. She kicked our butts all over the place. And at the end of it, the snake is like done. I'm laying on top of the snake. Dave's leaned against a tree. And he's like, yeah, this is kind of cool. I think I can
So
get
it took
into
you and
this.
Dave
Really?
to
Did he
another
get
level.
into it?
Another level.
Yeah.
Look
So
at
he's
you.
into
Yeah.
it now.
Yep. So he is my partner
sweet
now.
is
Like
that?
he's my driver and my captain.
Oh.
So he goes out with me.
Do you know the old joke about the two guys that go out? One guy gets bit by the poisonous snake, and they says it gets bit in a private area, and the other guy runs, and the doctor says, "No problem, you just got to suck out the poison." And the guy comes back and he says, "What did the doctor say?" The doctor said, "You're going to die." I would be your boyfriend in the truck with you with the 14-foot python going, "Sorry, honey, you're going to die." She wins.
Give me some of your passwords. Have you ever come across somebody who tried to take out a python and it managed? I think I read somewhere a college kid that you had to unravel. It had gone around him, and if it had kept going, it would not have been
Jake,
good.
yes. Jake is awesome. He's a very, very good hunter, and he was with some of his buddies that weren't hunters. And they came across the record 19-foot python. And it was a pretty big snake. So I pull up as this, I see him kind of pull the tail a little bit. The python goes to strike and he jumps on it. So this is when I'm getting out of my truck, and he's on the ground and it's kind of wrapping him up. And there's these three kids just standing there. And so I was like, hey, do you guys need some help? And he's like, Amy, I know you have tape. I know you have tape. Tape your mouth. So I was like, yep. So I told the two of the kids, I'm like, hey, pull the tail, And so they did. And then I pulled the coil off of his shoulder so he could actually sit up, right? And then, we got the mouth tape. But that was a big snake. That was pretty cool.
How much weight was that? 19 feet, like 200 pounds?
No, that one was I think like 125 or something, because it had just come off its nest. So it depends on the time of the year, because right now in the winter, everybody's been eating all summer and fall, and now their females are starting, they're gravid now, their eggs are starting to develop, and so they are big and they're fat. So the one that we just caught, it was 17.2 and it was 198 pounds.
Wow.
With how many eggs?
None yet, because it wasn't that time.
But these, they can have up to 100, 150 eggs, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Amy, do you find that I know the arena for hunting these animals is probably male dominated, but do you ever get attitudes from these guys, or are you one of the guys? If you're doing this, you're one of the guys.
I don't ever get any attitude. It's everybody's in this for a different reason.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, yes, it tends to seem like it would be more of a masculine thing. It's everybody's on the same team.
Yeah.
We're all working for this
supportive.
goal,
It's good to
even though
know.
it gets kind of competitive within it. And, there's always some drama.
Yeah.
You're always going to have that. But for the most part, everybody, we get along. We're a team. We're trying to get this done. And, however we can do it, that's what we're doing.
So do you have, I know we're about to wrap up. Do you have any feelings or anything you want to say about people who are getting these exotic animals and don't really know what they're doing?
That's kind of every single person that gets an exotic animal. They don't know what they're doing. Even if they think they do, they don't. When I was a volunteer at the zoo, at the Toledo Zoo in college, and we got a call every day. Can you take my python? Can you take my boa? Can you take my iguana? And so, if you let these animals go in the Midwest, they might, a few cats and dogs might be missing during the summer, but they're not going to make it through the winter.
Right.
Here it's a different story. So the people that, there's nothing that I can say that's going to stop it. And this problem, there's a lot of controversy on how it actually started, but the bottom line is that it is from the pet industry. But it doesn't matter how it happened. We're here now and we have to figure it out. So
Right. You got it. Before you go, last question. How many people right now are working catching pythons, and how many are they catching? And do you really drop them in a drop box?
the state has 100 contractors and you don't really drop them in Dropbox anymore. That was a thing kind of in the beginning stages, but this has really become streamlined and a lot more. We've learned a lot over the last 4 years. I'm not part of that program anymore because I started doing the guiding because, as Jason had mentioned,
You need to make a
nobody's
living.
getting rich catching
Right,
pythons.
Right. Yeah.
So how many
Say anyway.
snakes? How many snakes of the hundreds of thousands that have do you guys eradicate a year? Do you think?
Well, since the beginning of these programs in 2017, 20,000 is how many we've caught.
And
So
probably
it's-
prevented the birth of untold.
Millions.
We
thousands.
have, but that's nothing compared to the potentially 500,000 that are out there. I mean, and you just look at the statistics, and here's the thing: we are the most effective tool right now, the hunters, and it's an average of one python every 12 hours is what we're doing. And so that's not great, but it's the most effective thing we have, even though there's a ton of research going on right now to try to figure out a better way. We can't give up in the meantime. We
Right,
can't just say, oh, pythons, you win. We have to try, because somebody at some point will come up with some way to be more effective.
And to even hunt
Is there
them.
anything, if somebody was hearing this story and they wanted to be of service either with a donation or in some way, is there any way that people that are concerned about this can contribute to the effort?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, come down and go on a hunt with me.
Yeah.
I'll teach you how to do
And,
it.
and then
Other
the
than
other
that.
thing, what else could be done?
We've got the national parks. Donations for the national parks are, that a lot of that does go into the Python program. You can actually, if you like the jewelry and the bracelets, you can, buy some of those, because a piece, it not only helps fund me to be able to stay out there and do this, but it also, I've donated, let's see, I'm at over 400,000 now since I've started this. I donate hunts to charities in Southwest Florida. So I've raised, I think it's like 430,000 so far.
Oh, wow.
And nothing
For
warms the
different
heart like
areas.
seeing Amy take out senior citizens from the southern Florida out for those hunts.
Till Boca Vista.
Till Boca
Yeah.
Vista. They're going, Amy, thanks. Be safe.
Thanks
Thanks for
Amy.
having me.
She blew right by, because she doesn't have it. The whole fear of snake thing. I remember being in New Orleans doing a charity thing after Katrina, and the St. Bernardino parish in the 9th Ward, it's decimated. I mean, houses
Yeah.
off their fence. And the police department, the chief of police says, you want to go see what happened? Because you're playing for the charities. You want to go see? And so they drive us in, right? Great guy. And as we're driving the police car, the woman comes running out of what's left of her house, flagging down this car, going, "You got to help me! You got to help me! There's a snake in my house." Like Indiana Jones, the guy. I'm in the back seat. The guy turns to me and goes, "I hate snakes. I hate snakes." But he's the chief of police, right? So he gets out of the car, he walks into the house, comes out less than a minute later. He comes out white as a ghost. He goes, "Lady, you don't have a snake in your house. You got 5 snakes in your house."
And he left. And
I'm out of here.
it. Dude, if I ever saw a snake in
my God.
I would move. When we bought our house, because it's in the foothills, I read all about it, and because we're on a climb,
Yeah.
they don't like to climb, they don't like to drink, all
Yeah.
of that. And I said, thank God. I put the money down on the house, first day at the house, dead rattlesnake in the driveway.
Yeah.
And I go, did he not read?
Well, that was when I was doing Rocky and Bullwinkle. We were shooting out into Hone Ranch. It's a huge ranch out in California. And Rene Russo and I have to run through this field of tall grass, grass up to your, your chest height. So we go in the trail, and they send the snake wrangler through on the path that we're going to run. And he pulls, in his 15 to 20 minutes that he takes to do this path, he pulls 3 rattlesnakes out of the path where Rene Russo and I are supposed to run. Pulls them out, puts them in the ice chest, right? But another 30 minutes passes. Now they're ready to shoot. And they turn to me and Rene and go, "Okay, we're good." And I go, "You don't want to send the snake guy through again?" And they go, "Well, he cleared the path." And I go, "And every other rattlesnake got the warning? We don't go onto that path, guys. We stay." I was sure I was going to die for Rocky and Bullwinkle.
What's amazing is, but you did it.
Yeah, but you don't know my fear. I'll tell you another quick anecdote. Dan and I, years ago, my wife and I were in a place called America's Stonehenge. And if I can find these photographs, I think we can. I know where they are. I'll put them on our website, okay? Because my wife mounted them like this. So America's Stonehenge was a natural, some tribes, home, tribal home. And they built their homes. They would dig down into the earth. So they built like these little huts and things under the top of the earth, and there'd be little steps down. So you big thing is you go down and you stand in the entrance of one of the little homes and you take a photograph. So Dana's on the surface and I'm down, and the thing is just high enough that if I stand at the front of the house, I can kind of lean at ground level, because ground level is right where
so casually,
right, ha ha. Now at the time, if you saw the beginning of Seinfeld, it's about 2 years before that. So I used to have this big, thick strip of hair down the middle. I had the bald patch in the back, and the hairline was receding, but I had this little strip of hair going across the middle. So in the first photograph, my head is up, and I'm cocky, and I'm leaning against this thing. Between photograph 1 and 2, and she literally went click, click. That's how fast she went. I notice after click number 1, there's a snake at my elbow where I'm leaning, and I panic so badly, I pull my arm away, head down, and I begin to run out as she goes click, but I've now exposed the top of my head. It looks like the hair leapt off of my head because I saw a snake at my elbow. David, what did we miss? What did we learn? What did we miss?
Yeah, the periscoping. That's
it's unsettling.
Well, you know, it's the animals that are not supposed to be in Florida are quite quite numerous. It just really starts with the Burmese python. There are at current count over 500 non-invasive, non-native fish and wildlife have been reported in Florida, and there are 58 of those species who are established, which means they're
not going anywhere.
They're mating.
Yeah.
They're doing just fine. You're not going to get rid of them. Now, 58. Well, maybe that's not too bad. Well, 58 is twice as many as the next most diverse non-native reptile and amphibian community, which would be Hawaii at 32. So everything loves living in Florida. So apparently.
And we should say David and Florida.
It's because they don't have state taxes.
Can I add to that, though? Because this is a big point. It's a true point. If you're listeners and you go, well, you're talking about snakes, but that doesn't impact me, etc. It does, because with the climate change, with it's getting warmer and warmer.
Yeah.
Species are moving because their environment is no longer their native environment because it's changed so much as far as temperature.
Right.
So a lot of species are moving to other places. So you're talking about invasive species. The planet is changing in a big way as far as invasive species. So we're going to have some problems and things we got to figure out. When we had the rodent guy, the rat expert, I mean, he said the way to eradicate the rats is to change our behavior. The only way to do it is to change our behavior.
Our behavior, right.
But if they've got 500,000 pythons down there and they're moving north, and we've got areas that are now cold, areas that are flooding.
Yeah.
Animals are going to be moving out of those areas.
Well, what we've learned, Peter, is all you have to do is get a black baggie, jump on the head, and put the baggie over the head, and these things are little puppies.
I'm going to try that with my cousin.
Scratch them behind the ears. Do they have ears? I don't know.
At Christmas, I'm trying that with my cousin because nothing calms him down. I'm going to try that.
Right, I guess.
May need help.
I don't know.
David, what else we got?
You know, I'll tell you what. Here, David, before you tell me there's one place in the world where in the entire country, there is not one predatory mammal, not one poisonous reptile or spider. Do you know what that country is?
Tuvalu.
No. It is a place I've been. It is New Zealand. And as the Kiwis say, there's nothing here that can kill us, so we find ways to kill ourselves. We tie a rubber band to our foot and jump off a bridge. I mean, you know, you go to Australia, and, you know, we used to joke about there's so much there that can kill you. But you fly to the next closest place, New Zealand, and there's really nothing there that is going to hurt you.
So my favorite, we can go out with this, favorite invasive species story is in England. They eradicated hundreds of years ago these beavers, okay? They hunted them into extinction. So they came back recently, and the hunters and the farmers are saying that because they left, they no longer have resident status. We beat them to death. So just the fact that they're back, we don't count that as resident status. So
despite the aroma of vanilla in the air, which is a deep dive. That's a deep, really dive, my friend.
You can just negate that they were here first.
Sure.
So, you damn beavers.
All right.
Damn beavers.
Whatever.
They don't get any respect.
You know what? I'm done. I'm done. We've talked about snakes, and I'm squeamish, and I'm done.
But we talked about invasive species and how important that is.
right.
I've been to your neighborhood. There's some invasive species there that I didn't anticipate.
And believe me, when you're there, you're an invasive species.
And by the way, I love that Guggenheim talks about, you know how many things came here that shouldn't be here? You moved there.
Yeah,
You moved there.
I was going
You
to
weren't
say,
from
you're
there.
in Florida, for God's sake.
Exactly.
I am an
Exactly.
invasive species.
Yeah.
You also have invasive snowbirds every winter.
But
they come down.
David, just know, if we have to get rid of you, little cluck to the head, you'll be unconscious, and then just a little screwdriver.
Wait. Well, on that, if you got the thing's head already,
Yeah.
shouldn't you just do it off instead of let's lull him to sleep and then we'll
That's
kill him?
not. No, that's not
It's a
considered
two-step-
humane.
If you're killing him when you're stunning him, why not just
You're
get
not
it over
still.
with
You're
quickly?
stunning him. You're not. That doesn't kill him. That stuns him, so he can't feel
so
any
if
pain.
I'm a snake, I'm going get it over with already. What's with this?
Well, here's the problem. Even if, like, you know this, if you behead the snake and you go, okay, we're done, it's still doing its thing. The body can still coil. The head can still bite.
But if you do the no country for old men thing and do the boom,
That
wasn't
stuns
two-step.
them.
All right,
It
fine.
stuns them. They're essentially brain dead, but they're not dead. They could still
rather
turn
be
around
dead.
and go, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm biting you.
Oh my God! All right, let's go on a hunt for one episode.
Yeah,
Join me in a hunt.
exactly.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to the airport. I'll see you. I'm getting my plane ticket. I'll see you in the Everglades,
Gonna go
kids.
snake surfing. See you later.